With the introduction of the Skrull in Marvel's new film Captain Marvel, this opens up a massive opportunity for future films. Fans of the comics might recall the Secret Invasion storyline, which was published in 2008 and featured a drawn-out Skrull invasion of Earth, featuring imposter versions of most of our favorite superheroes. Fans have been speculating for quite some time about which direction Marvel might steer their ship following Endgame, where most assume the Infinity War storyline will come to a conclusion. It also makes sense that Marvel would simply introduce the Skrull at this point, because it would make no sense to introduce another main villain while the war with Thanos is still unfolding. In this video, we'll take a look at how the Secret Invasion storyline might play out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how they may adapt it for the big screen, and what sort of seeds they've already planted. For those of you who aren't so well versed in the Marvel comic book lore, the Skrull are a species of shape-shifting aliens. They're a major antagonist in the comics. However, it's interesting that their first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic world is in the role of good guys. According to Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios and the guy who pretty much makes all of the decisions, he wanted to portray the Skrull much like humanity, where there are some good ones and there are some bad ones. It's a bit simplistic to just declare the entire group of individuals is bad, and if there's anything we've learned thus far, it's that Marvel tends to keep things anything but simple. When the Skrull are introduced in Captain Marvel, they're at war with another race of extraterrestrials, the Kree, and it's Captain Marvel's responsibility to stop the fighting. The comic book storyline begins with a Skrull and Kree war as well. In the comics, we see the Skrull play the long game over many years, invading Earth and replacing figures of power. They use their shape-shifting powers to infiltrate every industry, government, security force, and various superhero teams across the world. This could be an incredible direction for the MCU to take, seeing as how it incorporates an extensive palette of characters. It also features a slew of shock reveals, which would translate nicely onto the big screen. In the comics, Earth superheroes Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Namor, Black Bolt, Professor X, and Doctor Strange band together to form a group called the Illuminati. They attack the Skrull Empire, only to be captured and studied intensely before escaping. Through this inspection, the Skrull learn about Earth and decide they want it. Ensuing standard battle for Earth begins. Now you may be thinking, that's cool, but Mr. Fantastic and Professor X aren't really part of the MCU. Those characters are from the Fox side of Marvel. Well, you'd be right and you'd be wrong, because Disney just purchased Fox Entertainment. This means that the floodgates are now open for the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and possibly even Deadpool to show up alongside the Avengers.
Fake laugh.
Captain Marvel, the movie, doesn't outright declare the Skrull as the new main antagonist of the franchise. Instead, it simply plants a seed. It gives us a heads up as to the existence of the Skrull, rather than establish anything too serious just yet. After all, it took Marvel 21 movies to build up to Endgame and a climactic conclusion with Thanos. They aren't just the type to rush through a story. In fact, there are 18 movies set to be released before Avengers 4, giving them a perfectly large window of time to build the Secret Invasion story. To add more fuel to the fire, in the comics, the Skrull invasion is hugely important in introducing Norman Osborn. He eventually acts as another main antagonist. In fact, rumor has it that Norman Osborn makes his debut appearance in the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home movie. This is Marvel thinking 10 steps ahead, likely planting seeds for Phase 5 while still in Phase 3. In the comics, the Skrull are led to Earth by Princess VERANKE, armed with the knowledge of superhuman gained from having studied the Illuminati. The Skrull captures several superhuman and pose as a number of high-ranking important officials. VERANKE herself poses Spider-Woman. However, due to a breakout of supervillains at Raft Prison, she's forced to reluctantly join the new Avengers team and pretend to be good. Even while posing as a hero, VERANKE stirs up drama, especially focusing her efforts on Tony Stark and his hot temper to throw off the superhero community and promote distrust. She manages to stir up so much animosity that the heroes start infighting with one another, oblivious to the fact they're being played by shape-shifting aliens. With the superheroes preoccupied, the Skrull continue their invasion. It's Reed Richards, or Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, who figures out a way to identify the shapeshifters. Once they can decipher who's legit and who isn't, all the heroes manage to get back on the same page in order to fight a common enemy. In fact, even criminal Kingpin the Hood lends a helping hand to the heroes. In the final battle of superheroes vs. Skrull, it's not-so-good guy Norman Osborn who managed to deliver the final blow, eliminating VERANKE and vanishing the Skrull. For his heroic efforts, Osborn is placed in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., which then becomes Hammer. He forms a secret group of villains, which bleeds into the Dark Reign storyline. What does this mean for the Marvel movies? Well, the Skrull storyline already seems to be in place. On top of that, it seems like they're also rolling out the Norman Osborn character and that he'll play a role in several upcoming films. Not just as a one-off villain for the new Spider-Man movie. This could mean that we see the Secret Invasion storyline followed by the Dark Reign storyline. We're talking 30 or 40 films and probably 10 years into the future now. I think this is called getting ahead of ourselves. Maybe the invasion has already started in the MCU even more than we know. Perhaps some of the Avengers in the current Marvel universe are already Skrull posing as superheroes. Director James Gunn recently confirmed that the Skrull language has already made an appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, appearing on the tablet that Rocket uses on Xander. This just goes to show that Marvel has already been planting seeds and getting us ready for a Secret Invasion storyline in the not-so-distant future. If you consider the timelines, this all makes perfect sense. Captain Marvel takes place in the 1990s as she's attempting to stop the Kree-Skrull War. In the comics, it's only after this war that the Skrull begin infiltrating Earth over a long, patient process. Considering the 20-year gap between Captain Marvel and the current Marvel Cinematic Universe in which the Avengers operate, that would leave enough time for the Skrull to pull off a secret invasion. The Secret Invasion comics take place after the Civil War storyline, following the death of Captain America. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but you're several minutes into this video already, and you know what you're getting yourself into. Will Captain America perish in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well? It's heavily speculated that Chris Evans is expected to leave his role as Cap behind after Avengers 4, meaning the timelines would line up perfectly for a full-fledged Skrull invasion around the same time. Speaking of Civil War, Marvel's team was impressively able to condense the entire arc into a single film without losing too much of its core value. However, tackling Secret Invasion in a single film would be a lot more difficult. It's also better suited as an overarching narrative playing into several films and also causing audiences to cast doubt on pretty much everything that has happened in the MCU since Skrull's arrival on Earth. Perhaps it's time to go back and watch some movies to try and spot any peculiar behavior, because odds are the Skrull are already a part of the action and we're just oblivious to it. While there's nothing set in stone as of yet, as always, Marvel is being very secretive about their plans moving forward. Aficionados of the comics might see the writing on the walls, but just because it makes sense doesn't mean that's the route they're definitely going to take. After all, Marvel has taken liberties with comic book storylines in the past. They rarely follow the comics part by part, but rather use them as a rough outline of how the movies could play out. Don't expect them to recreate the Secret Invasion storyline exactly the way it goes in the comics. For example, Reed Richards plays a huge role in the comic book story. I can't imagine the same would happen in the MCU. Despite Disney and Fox reaching an agreement and Disney now having the ability to capitalize on the Fantastic Four, we still need to consider that this is a business and some films do a lot better in the box office than others. It wouldn't make much sense for Marvel to throw one of their worst performing characters at the center of their next big narrative. It'll be very interesting to see how they reimagine it and tell the Secret Invasion story, if they even do. Here's hoping they go for it though. The Secret Invasion narrative would be awesome to see on the big screen, especially following this whole ordeal with Thanos, who's very in your face and literal. He's the most powerful being in the universe, so there's no real need for him to plot or be sneaky in any way. He can sort of just do whatever he wants. The Skrull, on the other hand, are a lot more involved behind the scenes, so to say. They stay under the radar, slipping through the cracks that even heroes can't see. The Secret Invasion story would probably be a lot more psychologically interesting, and Marvel has the capability to really knock this one out of the park. It also involved such a diverse palette of heroes and villains, which is excellent because with every new Marvel movie we're introduced to more and more characters. It's taken 21 movies over the span of a decade, but there are finally enough characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to really start having some fun and mixing things up. Do you think the Secret Invasion storyline is a good idea? Leave a comment in the section below letting us know how you see Marvel's Phase 4 playing out. Or maybe it's already begun. Is there another hint we may have missed that teases a shape-shifting alien invasion? It's pretty safe to assume that the Infinity War storyline is coming to a close, and Marvel isn't closing up shop anytime soon, so how do you see things playing out after Thanos has his fun? Also, if you enjoyed this video, do us a solid by hitting that thumbs up button. Everyone counts. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you can get, well, notified every time a new video is released.